This whiskey is 100 years old. Well, okay, this whiskey isn't 100 years old, but the brand is 100 years old. I'm Matt, I'm the Whiskey Nerd, and this is the 10-year-old Green Spot that was released to mark the 100-year anniversary of the Spot whiskey brand. So, let me get it into the glass, and I'll tell you a little bit more about it. Now, this is Green Spot, but not exactly as you know it. So, Green Spot is one of those really well-known Irish whiskey brands. They are one of the commonly cited expressions. If you want a good Irish whiskey, go for Green Spot or go for Redbreast, depending on what you like, with Green Spot being a little bit sweeter, a little bit fruitier, Redbreast being a little spicier, a little bit like dark, a little bit more sherry. So this here is Green Spot. So Green Spot, the standard version of Green Spot, comes in at 40% alcohol by volume. It is a single pot still Irish whiskey, which is a blend of malted and unmalted barley. You can use other grains in there, but for the Spot whiskies they go, I think it's 60% malted and 40% unmalted barley. I'll check my notes on that. If not, I'll put a correction up there so you'll see that I can't remember everything in my head, but I think it's more malted than unmalted in their blend. So this here is of course a single pot still Irish whiskey. Generally comes in at 40%. This here for the special edition, it comes in at about 46% alcohol by volume. So actually not about, actually it is exactly 46% alcohol by volume. And the standard Green Spot doesn't have an age statement, so it is generally speaking a blend of between 7 and 12 year old. So you can kind of say the average is out at about 10-year-old, but this here is a 10-year-old age statement. Now they got other whiskies in the Spot range, so the Blue Spot is 7 years old, the Green Spot is 10 years old-ish, the Yellow Spot is 12-year-old, and the Red Spot is 15 years old. And that history is because when the Mitchell & Son company, they were like wine bonders, wine merchants, what they would do is they would get a wine cask, they'd sell the wine, they'd say, hey, we've got this perfectly good cask, they'd send it down to Middleton, down in Cork, who would fill it up with whiskey, and then when it came back to the store, they'd put a spot of colour on it, and they'd say, okay, great, we're going to leave the blue ones for 7 years, the green ones for 10-year-old, and that would be how they market and say, great, this whiskey is 10 years old, this whiskey is 15-year-old, and they would put a spot of colour, kind of like that there, if you can see it, there's a little spot up there. They would put that on the barrel just so they would know themselves of how kind of old the whiskey is. And one thing interestingly they did for this, the packaging I think is actually really cool. It has this like lovely kind of like almost like swirls of paint on it, but just there on the back you can actually buy the paint. So in partnership with Yes Colours, I'll put a picture up there so you can see what I'm talking about. They actually recreated, they looked at some of those old barrels and they said, great, let's recreate that paint. And when you bought this whiskey, you could actually buy the paint that was used, or the kind of recreation, the modern version of that kind of vibrant green paint. So if you wanted, I didn't buy it because I don't need paint, but you could buy that old paint. Maybe I should have bought it and could have painted this cask with that green just for myself, but just it was a nice kind of fun little thing they did, not just releasing a whiskey but also a nod to the heritage, that if you wanted that paint you could have painted something in that Green Spot green. Other than that, I think the whiskey is essentially the exact same. I mean, yes, it comes in a slightly higher ABV, but it is bourbon matured, Oloroso sherry finished, like it's matured in the same kind of casks you'd get in the standard Green Spot, just at a slightly higher ABV. So I think I'm going to go in for the nose on the limited edition Green Spot and see what it's like. Cheers and sláinte. Okay, so obviously it's just a slightly older, slightly stronger Green Spot, but that's not a bad thing. Like, Green Spot is a lovely whiskey, but giving it a little bit more weight with the alcohol, giving it a little bit more time in the casks, it's definitely a more full-on whiskey. So Green Spot, at least for me and for a lot of people, it's well known for having this like sharp green apple, Granny Smith kind of flavour. Like, it's good appley, sharp apple, and that here is present, but it's a little bit further back. So here I think maybe those bourbon casks, maybe they had like a stronger influence, because normally I get green apple followed by caramel, vanilla, butterscotch, toffee, those flavours. Here I'm getting caramel, vanilla, butterscotch, toffee, and then the green apple. So I'm getting a little bit less fruity, a little bit more sweet, a little bit more oaky, a little bit more, yeah, kind of rich. There's honey. There's actually, sitting with it a little bit longer, the sherry notes, those kind of dark fruits are actually coming through a little bit more. Now they say here on the side, yeah, they say a bit of blackberry and apple, and I could see blackberry. I would have gone maybe more like a... Actually, no, yeah, blackberry, yeah, blackberry and apple. Actually, that's what it reminds me of more. Yeah, I'll put a picture of it up there. A blackberry and apple crumble. So it's like, it's blackberries and apple mixed together, stewed with sugar, cinnamon, spices, but with those kind of biscuity grains up top, that cooked caramelized sugar, bit of vanilla. Yeah, it's like that kind of the cakey note, that cooked, stewed blackberries as opposed to like fresh cooked blackberries. And I think that's kind of like your sherry influence there, where you get those dark stewed fruits that have been like cooked down, where the sugar has started to caramelize in them a bit. Yeah, it's just, it's nice. It's lovely. It is, I say it's nice, it's lovely. It is a lovely little nose. It's the kind of nose that you could sit here for a while, because it is at 46. So it is a nice, for me 46 is probably my favorite drinking percentage, because it's a little bit higher than that floor at 40%, but it's not so high that it's kind of, you're getting overwhelmed with the alcohol. It's just a nice balance of flavor. So I'm going to go in for the palate, see if it stays as balanced. Cheers. Lovely and like mouth coating. Immediately caramel, toffee, butterscotch, really rich around the outside. And then you get this like peppery spice. So yeah, as I'm talking more, it's almost like cracked black pepper. It's almost like if you got that, like the peppercorn crusher, and you got those freshly cracked black peppercorns. Not herbal, not super hot, but a nice hit of spice on your palate. Again, still got those cooked grains, the apple and blackberry crumble, that kind of like nice sweet fruitiness, but with that definite pot still spice. So on standard Green Spot, it is there, like you get a bit of spiciness, but here it's much more forward. Like you definitely get a hit of spice, whereas on the Green Spot you get a bit of spice, you get a touch of spice. So I'm gonna go in again for a second sip, let it sit a little bit longer, see what else I can find. Cheers. Okay, let it sit there for a lot longer, and this time I got a lot more cinnamon, nutmeg, baking spices, as well as those peppery, sharp, like almost hot spices. Definitely getting, yeah, the baking spices. So yeah, again, like I said, that first hit, it's all creamy, mouth coating, caramel, toffee, butterscotch, and then you get this lovely rich, probably at the same time as the fruity notes come through, you get those spicy baking spices, cooking spices, those kind of flavors with those apples, blackberries, almost like a black cherry, not quite as like cherried, but like again, it's those darker fruits, those kind of fruits with that green apple. So it's almost like you got two kind of fruity notes there competing. So just a lovely little palate. So I'm gonna go in again, this time focus on the finish. Cheers. Okay, so on the finish, yeah, it's nice. It is probably the same flavors. Like I'd say it's got a nice, probably medium to long, on the longer end of the finish. Like the pot still whiskeys, generally they've got this rich, oily, almost like mouth coating texture, so you will get a longer finish because it's pot still. But yeah, it's nice, it's rich, the oak spice, the pepper spice is there with those appley blackcurrant notes lingering on. I'd say the first note to fade is probably the butterscotch, toffee, caramel. That fades off. Like I've still got a little bit of sweetness there, but I'd say it's more fruity sweetness than those caramel, toffee, butterscotch sweetness. I'd say it's more of that fruit with the oak spice, with a bit of peppery spice, with a bit of cinnamon as well there, lingering on into the finish. Before I give my final thoughts on this whiskey, if you're new here, scroll down, hit the thumbs up button, hit the subscribe button. I put out whiskey reviews every Wednesday. I put out cocktail recipes featuring whiskey every Friday, and every now and then on Monday I put out videos where I compare different whiskeys. I talk about the industry, I make different kinds of cocktails. So if you want to see those videos, make sure you hit subscribe and leave me a comment below and tell me if there's any whiskeys you think I should review in future. But for now, this one here, it's good. Obviously it's good. Obviously it's good. I mean, Green Spot, the brand Spot Whiskies, they've been around for long enough. They're not going to just put out anything bad for their 100-year-old anniversary. And one thing on the price, this actually wasn't that expensive. So full disclosure, this here is €85. I think standard price €85. I got it at the airport. I was traveling recently. I got it duty free. I think it was like €68. I'll put a correction up there what the final price is without taxes. So that's really good. Like almost you could have imagined them saying 100-year-old anniversary, €100, and people definitely would have bought it. But I think putting it out at that €85, 60 something, 68, €69 if you're traveling abroad, yeah, that's really good. You if you are international, like if you're in America or you're somewhere like that, chances are with the tariffs, with things like that, there might be a higher price than at €85. You might see it at €100, but I think they released it at a decent price. Whatever your store is selling at it, that's a different amount, but they released it, I think, at a decent, fair price. Like the standard bottle is like, depending on the store you go to, 60, 65, 70, sometimes €80 if you're at a shop that's going to rip you off. So I think €85, yeah, that's really nice, really fair for a slightly stronger, slightly older age statement version that has a nice kind of unique limited edition kind of packaging. It does look nice, it does look a little bit more premium. So I think that price, yeah, that's relatively fair. I'm not unhappy with that price. I think that's a solid little price for a special edition whiskey. I probably wouldn't be buying it every day at that price, but for a special edition, once-off little bottling, I'm happy enough with that price. You might disagree, so let me know down in the comments if you disagree, though. Me, right here, I'm going to keep on enjoying it, and I'll see you next time. Sláinte.